How are you doing? This talk that you hear about the extra teams in the NRL, there not being enough players to fulfil those teams and get them to a high standard is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard in my life from so many commentators that I really respect. I'll tell you why in a second. I'm also going to go into the conferences that have been spoken about, which I wrote about just over a year ago as well, as an option for the NRL, and think why people shouldn't be so quick to write it off. First of all, the talent argument. To say there's not enough talent to go around to fuel one or two more teams makes a sweeping suggestion that every club has such a wide recruitment net that they don't miss anyone. And not only that, they don't make any wrong decisions. Secondly, it makes the assumption that they see everybody in the rugby league world. And then thirdly, it makes the assumption that they see everybody in the world. So even people who don't play rugby league, who might play gridiron, rugby union, or anything where the attributes can cross over. I know so many players through my coaching career who missed out on selection for rep teams, and that was enough to steer them in the wrong direction when it came to the game. It was enough to make them turn their backs on the game. In recent weeks, I've posted about a dodgy trial situation. I got a bit of criticism for that. Some people said they didn't like what I was doing and all this. Well, hang on a minute. I want a fair deal. I want a fair deal for every kid out there. And I'm not ever going to make an apology for that. And this assumption that there's not enough talent makes the assumption that every single kid that is getting picked up is the right one. Well, let me tell you what a lot of recruitment managers do in the NRL. And I must excuse a few of them who really have a wide net. One of them is my good mate, Peter Mulholland, who I'm absolutely really fond of as a man and a human being, and he's been great to me, and he's doing it tough at the minute. He leaves no stone unturned, and there's a few others there as well. But so many of them just go to the games. So after a trial situation, you have a trial, you might have 40 people trial, and 20 are selected for the carnival. Well, a lot of scouts go just to the carnival. That again makes the assumption that the selectors who selected from the 40 have made the right decision. Well, tie that in with that thing I said about the trial the other week. Are you telling me that that's widespread, that people make the right decisions at trials all the time? So when you're looking at the two arguments, there's not enough talent, but also the trials aren't being done right. Well, I think there's quite a valid argument to say that a big reform of how we recruit people, how we find talent in Australia or Britain or wherever it may be, is needed. By just going to the final game and not the trials, the recruitment managers or the scouts are leaving their selection, the first stage of selection, to teachers, club coaches, rep coaches and all that kind of thing. I also said it makes the assumption that they find everyone. Well, what about a trial situation for a rep side and a player's injured and he can't go? Or he didn't hear, or she didn't hear about the trial? And what about somebody who just plays club football and doesn't do the school pathway and doesn't go to a rugby league school? What about the person who just does school and doesn't do the club pathway? So this sweeping suggestion that recruitment managers and clubs haven't got enough players to find out there is absolute rubbish. I think a lot of them can double what they find based on what I've seen over my years. Secondly, it makes the assumption that they find everything in the rugby league world. It's not just Australia that plays rugby league. There's Great Britain. In Great Britain, they invented the game, right? And a couple of clubs in the past 10 years have gone down the British Avenue. South Sydney and now Canberra Raiders have got a lot of Brits in there. Again, Pete Mulholland at Canberra. But there's also France, a very historical and it's sort of struggling a little bit historically, but it's also a very strong rugby league heartland. Papua New Guinea. Has every club got a great scouting network in Papua New Guinea? Fiji, Tonga, Samoa. Do they know everybody and everything that's out there, or are they going on anecdotal stuff from people? So no, there is enough talent. There will be enough talent to go around. But the best scouts and the best recruiters have networks, and they get people doing things for them. There's a lot of goodwill in rugby league, and not a lot of people ask for lots of money to do some scouting. So the good recruiters have people out there. They have a network, and they listen to people all the time. And not only that, they talk to more than one person. And of course, it makes a sweeping assumption that everybody in the world has been looked at prior to seeing if there's any talent around. Well, are you not telling me there's somebody in Russia who couldn't be a good NRL player? Their comp's getting back up and running. A bit of a stuttering start since COVID, but I've seen some players in Russia back in the day, and I'm sure with the right coaching over a period of time, they could start to gradually penetrate the NRL ranks or the lower ranks. America, are you telling me that in a country like America that produces all these athletes that play NFL, some of them the size of fridges, are you telling me that they couldn't find some rugby league players there and have a long-term plan? So it makes these sweeping assumptions that there's not enough talent to go around, and it's absolute rubbish. I want you to bear that in mind next time you hear that. The other thing too is that I wanted to talk about was this conference system. Now, everybody who's complaining about it, I'll just lower my tone a little bit because I'm not angry about this, but everybody who's complaining about it, you've got to remember, I think, that the current NRL system isn't fair. Not every team plays each other home and away, and there's also a big 6-8 week block in the middle of the year where the best players, the best 36-40 players are taken out for Origin. How can that be fair? And you can finish mid-table, mid-ladder, and still win the competition. So a lot of your games don't matter. The conference system, the criticisms have been the fact that Melbourne won't play Manly Sea Eagles, for example, or something like that. Well, with a bit of planning, pre-planning, this can be arranged. When I wrote in Rugby League Hub about a year ago, I suggested 2 pools of 9, a Sydney pool and an out of Sydney pool. I suggested they all play each other home and away. That would give you 16 rounds. They then play somebody in the equivalent. They play the other 8 teams in the other pool. So 1 year, for example, let's use Manly Sea Eagles. They would play the Cowboys away from home in 2022, let's say. But then in 2023, in the cross-pool games, they'd play them away. So home and away, they'd switch it, sorry. So play your conferences, 16 games. That's 8 teams, home and away, and then play another 8 games cross-pool, so cross-conference. That would give you 24 games, which is 2 below our current 26, and there'd be an element of fairness in that. And then you'd work out your final series. Now, the next criticism has been that there might always be a Sydney team in a grand final and somebody else. Well, that can be avoided too by having a draw for the semi-finals. So let's say it's the top 4 in each pool. Then you have the 2 fourths in a pool, the 2 thirds in a pool, the 2 seconds in a pool, and the 2 firsts in a pool. And you draw accordingly from that. So, for example, you could play somebody from the other pool in the first quarter-final, yet if you win through, you could end up with somebody from the same pool again, kind of thing. Or, it might be the first round where you could play somebody in the same pool, so on and so forth. There's so many things you can do to make this work. And that would provide a more equitable scenario for the NRL clubs. The fans would buy into it a little bit. The crowds would be bigger because you'd have more local derbies. There's a travel problem, obviously, for the out of Sydney teams, and there would have to be funding given by the NRL accordingly to meet that and any other allowances. But ultimately, I think it's a way to go, and you can't assume that the current NRL system is fair, because it isn't. It really isn't. So give it some time, give it some thought, and let's see where it ends up. And I reckon it's worth a try anyway. Because I'm telling you now, there's enough players to go around. The amount of players I know should have made it or got at least 2 or 3 years out of it who've been ignored because the game's been sizist. The game's been sizist for so long. They've wanted big players all the time, big athletes. Yet they're sort of turning now because the game's a little bit more mobile with the 6 again rule, so they're getting some more athletic players and trying to recruit them, and then by the time they recruit all them from the juniors, then the game will go back to big boppers. It's a lot of the recruitment has been sizist, and sometimes I'll get a call from a club and the first question will be, how big is he? Not how skillful is he or what's he good at, So this shirt, Glenn Mills Bulls. Marcus Vasilakopoulos gave me this, the old Leeds Rhinos and USA player and a legend, and hello to you, Marcus. Yeah, so angry about this rubbish that there's not enough players going around. Find them all then, and then say that. See ya.